Welcome to the DriveLife podcast. Welcome to another episode of the DriveLife podcast. With us today is Mark, but we've also got Trevor from Straightliners. He's joining us today to talk about all things going fast in a straight line and records and all kinds of drag racy things like that. But before we do that, it's our usual trip down memory lane and things that we've done in the very recent past. So it's been quiet, hasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, that's just that time of year, isn't it? Like hit November, December time, and the car events kind of drop off a little bit. So we're kind of less involved in that, although we've still got plenty in the calendar on the SC UK side, and there's also plenty going on the car calendar side as well. We've got a steady stream of events on car calendar from event organisers being added over the winter period, which, given it is the UK, it's good to see that people are still cracking on. But no, at our end, it's been quite quiet. We covered on the last podcast, I guess, all the bits that we'd been up to personally in, I guess, August, September time. And now really for at our end, we something that we've not spoken about on the podcast before is we've got another business called Drive Digital, which is offering our So a big part, I guess, of running what we run is actually the digital and tech side of things. Yes, it's SC UK is a car club, but when you look at the car calendar, the SC UK website, the organisation of car events, a lot of it is done behind the screen. So usually what we try and do is during this time period, I guess the October, November through to February, March, it's all work behind the screen. So one thing that we've been really busy with recently is Drive Digital, and the primary purpose of that business beyond looking after our own stuff is to offer digital services to other automotive businesses. So yeah, I've been, as unexciting as it sounds, I've been sat a lot behind the screen recently doing all manner of things like in the automotive world, delivering websites, media, everything.
A lot less driving cars, a lot more driving a desk.
Yeah, it's sad. I really miss it. It's I just cannot wait every year when March, April kind of hits and you feel safe to push your car on the under the speed limit, should I say? You feel safe to push your car on the public road under the speed limit, but without having the cold, damp roads to contend with.
Yeah, I looked on the way here, so I've done 100 miles today. That's a third of the mileage I've done in the last month, maybe 6 weeks.
It's just depressing.
I've done hardly any driving at all.
It's really depressing.
Yeah. There's been a few static meets, but they're less than 10 miles from my house. It's not a lot of driving distance to get to them. So yeah, not a lot. And the bulk of the driving I did do was to the meet that we did at McLaren Leeds.
Yeah.
Which is the only thing I can recall from a sort of a club perspective that we've done, which was brilliant, by the way.
Yeah, I guess
really well attended.
As a brief segue, it's good to actually talk about that one. I'd forgotten about that one. Yeah, that was maybe unofficially the last static meet of the year, because we might do one. I thought actually we've just added one, the Great British Car Journey. But let's say the last big static meet of the year was at McLaren Leeds, and what a turnout it was there. Couldn't believe it. In fact, I was stood at the gate at one point and Josh, our photographer, just said, please, can the cars stop coming? There's just too many to deal with.
Yeah.
We were looking at the car park filling up thinking, what are we going to do here?
Yeah. There was 103 registered cars. I think a few more than that turned up, and we were completely full to the gills when we were. There was nowhere to put any more cars.
Definitely both physical attendance and on paper, that must have been our biggest turnout to just a morning static meet, I would say. So thank you to all the members who attended that. That was really good.
And there were some really special cars there. So the photos are up on the website, so you can go and have a look at these. But, credit for bringing them out, given the salt's already out on the roads in places and the sort of conditions and traffic. Actually, there was some quite bad traffic in the morning. There was a 765 LT Spider came along, 430 Scuderia, The usual, zillion Porsches showed up.
Yeah.
No disrespect, but there was a lot of them there that day. There was a one-of-one Noble M600 Speedster, the only one in the whole world, which is pretty cool to have show up to just a morning coffee meet. And there's a few other interesting things besides. It's a real eclectic mix of cars showed up. So credit to those owners who decided to bring those special cars out, even though it was kind of the weather closing in. And actually, it was brilliant morning weather-wise.
Yep.
So,
absolutely. Yeah, no, it was, considering that either side there was terrible weather.
Yeah.
But that particular day was great. So
we got away with it. And I guess it was just a good day for it, because a few of us came here to where we're filming at the Motorist for lunch afterwards. And it was absolutely rammed here as well. And again, some rarities here. There was a Honda NSX and some other bits and pieces that, you don't often see. Out and about. And then the usual things that you see all the time, like Aventador SVJs and things.
Those common cars.
Those common cars.
Yeah.
They're one of the supposedly rarest cars, but I think of all of the rare cars that I see SVJs the most.
Yeah,
but anyway, Aventadors are always a feast for the eyes, aren't they? So.
Well, speaking of you mentioned the 765 and the Noble that attended McLaren. So the only other thing that's been, I guess, noteworthy recently is for the last few months, we've been filming a number of media days for SCUK, and that's primarily for promoting SCUK and the various brands and events that we are associated with, doing promotional material for them. So we just did our last one, which featured that blue 765 LT and a non-speedster Noble M600, but still a really nice example of one, plus another couple of cars, a Red Vantage and a GT3. But we filmed that just a couple of weeks ago at Melbourne Raceway in York, which is not only is it a venue that we've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast because we've done a couple of events there, but it was kindly arranged by Trevor, and Trevor is the man at the helm of that raceway amongst the other things that he does. So thank you very much for arranging that. It was really helpful. Absolutely, you did not sort the weather. I have whinged about the weather all year on this podcast, and I really don't like that idea, but you did not arrange the weather that day. It was absolutely soaking. Didn't do much for us advertising Ultimate Supercar with because we don't want a wet runway on that day. No. But anyway, we did our best, and the stuff that's come out of it was really good. So.
Well, it adds tons of drama, water flicking off wheels and all the rest of it. So absolutely. And reflections in the tarmac and all of that. So the content was great, but it's not what you want really. If you could pick anything, you don't pick a
no. It was absolutely bolty. But anyway, all good. But thank you for that. It was it's a great venue with a lot of promise as well, and hopefully it's going to keep growing. But
so is that the home of Straightliners, or is that one of many places?
It is our permanent home now. We never thought we would, in our wildest dreams, that we would ever get a permanent track, but we have. We've just run our third season. It's growing. And it's going in the right direction, really. It's it's spot on.
Excellent. So I'm going to guess, and probably accurately, that most people who are listening to this have heard the term Straightliners if they're around the SCUK events and our media content and so on, but they don't really know what Straightliners is or does, or the history. So, do you want to just take us through, like, how did Straightliners get started? What was the spark?
Yeah, Straightliners started late mid 1990s. It started from my frustration with red tape at motorsport events. Guys want to ride the bikes, race the cars, work on them. They don't want to be, sending entries in and all that sort of stuff. So we broke away from Motorsport UK, ACU, which were the main car and bike sanctioning bodies. I set up with IOPD and Steve Murty, and set up Straightliners to get rid of all the crap, really, and make it simple, so that if you wanted to race your car or your bike You just came along with your driving license and your kit and your bikes and your car, and away you went.
Right.
It really, really took off. Really was one of our best assets.
Okay.
But as Mark says, with the rain, it's your best asset, but it's your worst enemy as well, because these days everybody has a weather app on the phone, and it's a blight of my life.
Yeah.
So does that mean, obviously, you're outside the MSA thing, so there's no MSA Blue Book regs for the cars or the bikes, and you don't need ARDS tests to go racing or any of that stuff? Or is that things that you would prefer people stuck to?
No, we have on our website, there's a full rules and regulations for both cars and bikes.
Right.
And for record attempts, which is what we do. They're very thorough, and they're meaningful. They're not. It's not full of a regulation because it's always been there.
Right.
If things move on, and if there's now no need for that regulation because car tech's gone in leaps and bounds, and don't use it, get rid of it, and put something else in its place, and that's what we do.
Right.
So it's a never-ending story, really. We're continually looking at things and moving forward. We have a good safety record, and we probably run more events per year than most clubs have ever dreamt of doing.
Right.
We ran 47 events last year.
Wow, that is a lot. That's most weeks of the year, isn't it? Yeah. So you don't just, you mentioned records in there, so you don't just put on kind of run what you brung, have a laugh. So things, you've got some actual properly serious world records and so on.
Yeah, we have record attempts. We also have, on the drag racing side, very serious championships where people can come along and chase points up and down the country at various venues. On the top speed side, we have test days at Elvington, usually on a Monday after Melbourne, so we don't have to go back. We can take all the kit and move up. It's only 11 miles between the two venues. And we run test days. That gets the guys out there on the runway, just seeing what the cars and bikes will do. For the first time this year, we ran Speed Week, which was a world record attempts event for the full week, running all distances, in both imperial and metric. All the flying distances, and the ultimate distance anywhere in the UK is the 1.25 miles at Elvington.
Right. Okay. So is that longer even than somewhere like the beaches in Wales? You got Blackrock, Pendine, haven't you? And places like
Pendine, between Pendine, the slope at Pendine, Slipway, and the Loch Earn end is 7 miles. The problem you've got is that a half mile from the public beach, it is a army range throughout the week, so there's no access. Weekends it's not, and it's open to the general public. So we then hire the sands from the MOD, but you can't tell a dog owner that he can't take his dog on a Saturday morning. And it's always been a problem for us. Also, about half a mile in from the public beach is some soft sand where a stream runs underneath the beach, and it's always a quagmire. So we have to go half a mile on before we can start and look at a surface.
Right.
You need a very high tide with lots of water on it, and you need it to be rough. If you get those conditions, when the tide goes out, you've got concrete.
Right.
The sand is hard packed. So then you do a FOD, and you get rid of all the debris that's been brought in by the tide. But then you've also got to get it surveyed. So you have to have a surveyor on site You'll tell him where you want to start for safety reasons, and he'll measure your distances from there for you. Then we put the marker in, and we're good to go.
Right. That's a lot of effort then
A
compared
lot of
to
effort.
Elvington, where you can just...
And the problem is that the paddock then is further up the beach, obviously. You run as long as you can, but then we have to have a cut-off time. Now, it might be perfect conditions for racing, but we're telling them, right, that's it, stop.
Yeah.
We do that because the tide's coming in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And it comes in at the Pendine end sooner than where you are. So we've been pulling cables and getting stuff in and getting his feet wet, going up the slipway, believe me. We're not running at Pendine in 2024, but we hope to be back in 2025.
So is that the longest place then in the UK?
It is, but again, the longest distance we've run there is 2 miles.
Right.
And we've only been able to do that twice.
Right. Because of
the different conditions. We had a situation where we had a big patch of razorback shells on the beach, but perfect conditions either side of that. So you can't pick them up. There's millions of the things. So we're in despair, wondering what we're going to do. And I went off to see if we could move further back down. And when I came back, I've got a Land Rover with a big log, a big like a railway sleeper on the back of it. 2 Welsh girls sat on each end, and they are clearing all these shells. You've never seen anything like it in your life. It was so funny, but it worked really well, and we were able to run the 2 miles.
Wow, bit of
ingenuity.
Yeah. Nice. So records. What current records do you personally hold, if any? And in the club, how many records are?
I hold about 100 records in various guises on various machines. I hold 26 FIM world records, which I did on various bikes and things, being built in a garden shed and going out and taking on everybody, really. I got away with a lot of things that we shouldn't have got away with, I suppose. But yeah, the first record I ever did was in 1981, standing mile at Elvington on a 350 TZ Yamaha slingshot bike built for the purpose. And I'd spent 2 weeks building an engine that I knew was going to be good, and it was. And on the first running, I elected to run east-west. And on the first run, just coming up to the boards, really, on the mile, it seized up and locked the back wheel and nearly had me off, but I didn't. I stayed on it, got the clutch in and coasted to a stop. But I was 4 seconds under the record, a country mile under the existing record, which is unbelievable. So that was then... I had to do a return run to get the record, so I couldn't do that because the engine was in bits. So I took it back. And back then, the mile wasn't a popular distance. It was all kilos and quarters and all that sort of stuff. So the organisers saying we're going to knock the mile off in about 30 minutes. So I'm there with a seized engine. So we stripped the motor and we actually rebuilt the top end, put the stuff I'd brought from home and rebuilt this thing. Just a pile of crap, to be honest, all the time you'd spent putting things together properly. We just didn't have the time. We just threw it together. I never started it. Wheeled it to the start line at about 34 minutes. I'd gone over by about 4 minutes. Never even started it. Fired it up and went through, and it seized as I got to the mile. pulled in, and they're saying, well, you've got to go back. You've got to turn back. You're 3 seconds under the record. You've got to go back. So we just drained all the water out of it, water-cooled engine, poured cold water through it to cool it down, put winds friction-proof in through the plug holes and turned the engine over, got it turning, got it running, put some more water in it, got it to the line, ready to go back and do the return run, and set off like heart in mouth, really, because you've had 2 seizures and it's third time lucky in it. You're going to be on your ear. We got through, just coming up to the line, and it sees absolutely rock solid. It really did. I got it under control, stopped it, but I got the record. And I'd taken just under 2 seconds out the existing record literally with a pile of crap, to be honest. And I'll never forget that, there were no champagne and nothing like that, but everybody on site was behind you. They'd seen you repairing this bike and preparing it again to go again, and they were all willing you to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And when I got back into the paddock, shaking hands and patting backs and all that sort of thing, still sat on the bike, no champagne, but Coca-Cola bottles are good. And I was sticky for a month.
I'd like that. That's my champagne anyway. That's all I drink.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you listening who don't know, so anything that causes an engine on a motorbike to stop is like a 7-alarm fire, right? It's a really big deal. It's happened to me once. And you are, unless you get lucky, which is what happened to me, or are extremely skilled, you're going to have an enormous accident. There's plenty of people who aren't here anymore because of carb icing and that stalled the engine while they've been going, usually at really big speeds. If you're doing 100 miles an hour plus on a carbureted bike, carb icing is a real problem, as you know, and it's killed people. It just, it's really difficult to overstate how hard it is to recover from something like that. So to do it 3 times within the space of, an hour, that's some real, real courage. That's, I suppose, stupidity maybe, I don't know, but people, you don't get records if you don't have that sort of attitude, do you?
We did learn that these water-cooled engines need more cooling. So we in fact, I run the 3-wheeler now, and I still haven't got a radiator on it, and I just let it thermal siphon, but I put a bigger tank on for records, so it has more water.
Right.
And I run bigger tolerances and things, and tune the engine to do what you're going to do, rather than tune it for maximum all the time, which is what everybody thinks you have to do, but you don't. You've got to tune it so you break the record.
Yeah. So what is that the record you're most proud of because of the circumstances, or are there other records that?
No, lots of other records. I did all the motorbike sidecar records. You've seen the outfits going around, the TT and things like that. Nothing like that, just like a T-tray with a wheel. It would take a passenger if you were brave enough to get on it, but I did all the 750 sidecar records with the TZ 750. And I remember that event, one of the top sidecar racers came along to do records, and he was going for the 750 record, same as me, with a beautiful outfit, really wonderful thing. And he came across on a Friday night, and they were looking around my thing, and they went away laughing. And he said, yeah, all right, it's all right. And I took every record. He didn't take any. And he went through loads and loads of engines. And he actually came across to me afterwards to shake my hand. And he said, we looked at your bike and your sidecar and had a laugh about it, thinking, well, if that's the opposition, then we've got nothing to worry about. He said, but you've shown us the way to go, and even one of the top riders. But, yeah, lots of little things.
I hope
But I get a tremendous, nowadays I get a tremendous kick. I still race my three-wheeler, but seeing the smile on people's faces, providing that facility for them to come and do that.
Yeah.
We have wonderful, wonderful engineers in the UK who are just focused on what they're doing. So they build this wonderful car or bike to go and do a record or go to Bonneville and they've nowhere to test. We can provide that facility for them so that they have somewhere where they can go and they can test. Yeah. And they can indeed come and do records with ourselves, and a lot of them do, which is really good.
So there's a new generation coming through, would you say then?
Oh, definitely. The problem is the FIM and the FIA nowadays frown on airfields for record breaking because speeds are going up year on year. And the way that they insist on setting the distances means that you're cutting back on braking areas, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
So we've come up with our own formula. We formed the UK and International Timing Adjudication Limited Company about 8 years ago to do records in the UK and in Europe, because the FIM and the FIA are leaning more and more towards Bonneville, the dry lake beds, and now Bolivia, where they've got long distances, but the surfaces aren't the best. And Bonneville's been rained off more times than it should have, really. The fighting nature there. But we set out to keep the records in the UK because that's where it all started. That's where Campbell and all the others started in the UK. And we've got this heritage that we have to keep alive. So what we've done is we've done away with the 2 run in each direction, 1 run in each direction. And we're still doing 2 run averages, but they're both in the same direction. So that means that at Elvington, I can run a mile and have an exit, but I've still got a mile to stop in.
Yeah.
So that's so safe. Even at the 1.25 miles, I have 3/4 of a mile to stop in, which is more than enough for today's speeds. And we've got bikes at the last meeting doing 274 miles an hour at the 1.25 miles.
That's serious.
And stopping serious speeds. We've had cars doing 240s, 250s, no problem at all.
Yeah.
That's
200 feels quick. Another 74 miles an hour on top of that is almost unimaginable for me. I mean, I've done a few events, on runways, and the ones that we do at Elvington definitely feel like there's so much margin in the braking that, you almost question it. But then at some of the much shorter events that I've done in the UK, where it's a rolling start, for example. So you think that you couldn't get up to the speed and the distance, but actually you're starting at however fast you can go around the corner to get onto the runway. And it's been a challenge to get it stopped at the end. I think not for me personally, but I've been there and seen people, only just getting it to walking pace before they've gone off the end of the runway sort of thing. And I don't think people realize necessarily the difference that even 1 second makes it. If you're doing 180 miles an hour, and you cross the finish line and you've got 500 meters to stop, 1 second is a significant chunk of that 500 meters. And then you've got to do more braking in an even shorter space of time because you're still accelerating in that 1 second. And so, the safety aspects of Elvington have always felt really good. And I guess that's just an experience thing. And
the other thing we've put in at Elvington and at the Angus Mile that we do up in Scotland is a grading system. So we issue you as a newbie, we'd issue you with a free bronze license. That allows you to go up to 130 miles an hour. You then progress into a silver license, then a gold license, and the top the top spot is a platinum license. Once you get to a platinum license, you're on your own. You're developing that machine to go really, really quick. We've got probably about 15 people holding a platinum license with us at the moment. We've got others banging on the door. The gold will take you up to 250.
Right, okay. I was going to ask, because at Ultimate Supercar, there was a road legal McLaren 720S that did 227. So that's obviously slow, in outright terms. For a road car, that's in a mile, that's very, very, very quick.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
So that's in the gold standard sort of licensing thing for if you were to turn up with that car, that's where you'd be competing against other people sort of in that region.
But I guess like those guys, the guys at MSL are quite familiar with Straightliners events. They attend quite a lot. They attend the best and a few other bits.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. But I think it's fair to say that so we originally, wearing the SUK hat, we originally met Trevor at when we ran a private top speed day in September 22, which then started a chain of events and conversations whereby under another hat, Drive Digital, we've helped Trevor with the Straightliners with some of their web presence and developing that. And then we've had conversations that have led to us being heavily involved in Ultimate Supercar and things like that. But the one thing that is very apparent, even for myself, who is not very knowledgeable in the world of straight line sports, is that there's a big difference in terms of how different people approach health and safety.
Yeah.
And from what I can see is there is ways and means to do it without hindering the enjoyment of the event and the ability to engage in the event. And, not to name any names, but there are events out there which are definitely on the wrong side of the health and safety issue. And one of the reasons that I feel so comfortable working with Straightliners is because I know that we can offer the people that we engage with, we can offer the straight line sport experience, which loads of our supercar members want to get involved in. But also we know that there's going to be a really high level of health and safety without hindering the enjoyment of the event. And I think that, I'm not teaching Trevor how to suck eggs because he knows about this probably world far better than I do, but it does seem like there's, to a certain extent, almost like a lack of knowledge and appreciation about actually what that difference is.
Definitely.
So, you as an attendee of an event, you probably don't see 90% of the health and safety bits that are there behind the scenes to protect you and the public.
Yeah.
And that certainly is one thing that Straightliners seem to excel at. So hard balance to reach, I know, but that's certainly why we're so happy to be able to run Ultimate Supercar together and the other bits that we do, and long may it continue. Just no seized engines, please.
No seized engines, no. I
You
think
don't get that with cars.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
No,
Well,
not-
not will throw you off it
motorcycles.
anyway.
Yeah.
Will throw you off.
Yeah, and it's less of an event if it does happen. But
Yeah.
I was to say, anyone can jump in their car and drive to Germany and drive 200 miles an hour legally. It's a completely different ball game. You're on a public road. My view is you have to be pretty much mental to just try and do that on any given Sunday or whatever. I choose Sundays because I think trucks aren't allowed to use the Autobahn, or they're restricted in some ways on Sundays, right? So you're more likely to get a clear stretch of Autobahn on a Sunday.
Oh yeah, we did it, and I couldn't catch a Peugeot 205, and it really hurt my ego in the Mustang.
People do crazy things for extended periods of time, and the difference between doing big speeds on a public road, even where it's legal to do that, and doing it somewhere like Elvington couldn't be more different. It's a bit of a strange feeling doing 200 miles an hour in a car where you're in control, and you realise the magnification of all of your inputs and all that kind of thing, right? you think I'm on a runway that's however wide it is, it feels enormous when you're on it, right?
Yes.
And if I get this wrong, there's trees, but those trees aren't amazingly far away, but they're far enough away, right? But you think you're doing it on the road, and you're probably in lane 3, which means you're 2 feet from a metal barrier. You know, you have absolutely no margin for error whatsoever on the public road. So yeah, you can do it comparatively. The difference is night and day, isn't it? To the safety aspects of things, and you actually get to find out for real, not what your speedo's lying to you, but actually for real what speed you're doing as well. You know, and proof, and you got a little printout that says, you know, Straightliner says you were doing 204 miles an hour in your F8 Tributo or whatever it might be.
And I think from my perspective, that's why it's so important to keep events like the ones that Straightliners put on alive, because you know, it is run in a controlled, as safe as possible environment, but also it's not an event that's just for the people who are serious about constantly going in a straight line fast. It's an event for everyone. You know, it can be that these events are just as open to your everyday car owner who has something a bit quick and fancies a go, and very affordable way of doing it safely. Just as open to them as it is to the serious straight line competitor. And I think that's really important, because it you know, I guess us being in the automotive world, and in the supercar world in particular, you know, we want to see these opportunities continue to be available to everyone who just fancies a go, however serious they are about it. And that's why it's great to see for me that Straightliners continues to grow. And I know you've mentioned to me in passing that, you know, you really hope that Straightliners is on the path to become Europe's biggest straight line sport company, and it just seemed like you're well on your way to doing that.
Yeah, we're well on our way. We're now getting lots of foreign visitors coming to our events, and that can only be good. And we've now got a race license for them that has got repat insurance on it. So if anything should happen, they can get repat and you know, covered under their insurance. So yeah, it's quite good. We just before COVID, we went to France to time an FIM world record, a huge runway somewhere near Le Mans, I believe it was. But that was absolutely fantastic. But then Brexit's sort of dampened that down a little bit now.
Taking cars over to tracks like even Spa or the Nürburgring, whatever, you know, there's a lottery there on what French customs are going to do to you going through. They might turn you back. They might issue you with a huge fine. You're supposed to list out all your spares. So that's a lovely Brexit benefit there that we've had. You know, getting race cars to and from Europe is a real become a real problem. So that can't be helping things like that for you. But
no, it's not. No, but we're trying to put a deal together for the Dutch guys to come over and block with the ferry deal to come and race, particularly at Santa Pod and Melbourne. You know, that'd be quite good if that comes off this for 2024. But there is lots of interest in the quarter mile stuff and the 8th mile that we do. And we started Campbelltown, Macarenish airfield at Campbelltown on the Muller Kintyre. We went last year. We're doing 2 events up there this year. And that's an old American Air Force runway. That's 2 miles long. But the beauty of that is that the first half mile is downhill. So if you ever want to go fast, that is the place to go, without a shadow of a doubt.
Is that the one where the end of the runway is a cliff or a beach or something like that? You'll end up wet.
It's like Hot Wheels.
We run west to east there,
right?
And there's always a westerly breeze off the sea. The sea's at the back of the start line.
Right.
The one you're thinking of is Crail in Scotland.
Right. Okay.
That's got a
like a Hot Wheels ramp, as Mark said,
Yeah.
into the sea.
Yeah.
It's a good social media
Don't
content.
fancy that. Run out of brakes and then, oh God, I'm airborne.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.
So what's the future for Straightliners? What's the next evolution? What's the next thing?
It's like a magic roundabout. It's Straightliners. I couldn't get off if I tried. It just keeps spinning. The more we do, the more we get asked to do. We've got lots and lots of events up and coming in 2024. Some a new concept. We did the speed show in February. This year was our second one. We're running it again in 2024 on the 24th, 25th of February. That's a lot going for it, really. And we do drag racing over 100 meters.
Which our members were delighted about last year because we didn't tell them that was going to happen. But Trevor kindly sorted it out for us. And so...
Well, it started off, we were going to do a little demo for we've got a thriving junior class and contingent, starting them at 8-year-old on bikes and in cars as well. Not go-karts and that type of thing, that type of car. And that's gone down really well. So we thought we'd have a demo, but then the demo sort of instantly grew into, well, I want to do it. I want to do it. And then Mark comes along and said, well, can I? Well, so then all
Is
his
this
lot
one
are
where
doing
a certain someone was in reverse on the start line?
He was.
So
and I
next
got
year,
beat
the
by a
next
van.
show, it will be a full-on day, all day, and we've called it Dash for Cash.
Right.
So we're going to charge an entry fee, and all that entry fee will go into the pot, and that will be a prize fund.
Right.
And that will be for juniors, starting with juniors right the way up to all types of weird and wonderful vehicles.
Cool.
All that will be an outside paddock, so that should be quite. That'll be in itself will be a feature of the show. So that will be good. On the junior front, like I said, starting them at 8. We're now going to 2024 Caesars bring in 6-year-olds, but they're going to be in electric vehicles that are no more than sort of 18, 20 miles an hour over whatever distance we set. And that's just looking at families, because what we found is that there'll be a junior starting with us at 8, and he's got a 60-year-old sister or brother who's chomping at the bit to have a go because he's having a go.
Yeah. Why can't I?
So we're bringing in the 6-year-old on electric situation. But then when you look at that, you think, well, we're going to have the same thing, aren't we? Because the 6-year-old will have a 4-year-old brother or sister. So we've introduced that as well. So from 2024, you can start racing at 4-year-old. But your 4-year-olds are going to be on balance bikes.
Right.
So with your legs, off you go. We're going to time them over the 60-foot mark, so they're not going too far. And it'll just be a bit of fun, but get them involved, get the kids involved at base level, and it'll grow.
There's going to
we
be
started with 2 juniors. We had 16 at the last event in a year.
There's going to be some pushy parents there, aren't there? They're going to be some, my 4-year-old's got to be the fastest. It's going to be like a school sports day.
Jessica's 4 years old.
The beauty of how we run it is that you we have a 62 mile an hour cap on the 8th. So you do over 62 mile an hour, put your bike in your van and off you go.
Right.
Okay. So the cap is there. So that's for safety. We've then, so it's all about acceleration. So then if you watch the juniors, and Mark will have seen them, they're absolutely superb. And they read the lights like no adult can. They're canny, uncanny, the way they go. But then when we come to the finals, the runoffs, they're all handicapped. So it doesn't matter if your kid is a second faster than my boy.
Right.
You give my lad a second start.
Right.
And they'll both arrive at the finish line together.
Right.
And it's so close is the racing. And young Alfie Barraclough won the overall championship this year, and he never won a round until the last round at Santa Pod, double points.
That's competition, isn't it?
And it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And everybody were there to congratulate him, all his fellow racers and whatnot. Absolutely fantastic.
Amazing. Yeah. Just what you're saying about the uncanny reaction times there, the kids, has reminded me of a Formula One story, and the teams were all getting unbelievably good race starts, and everyone was like, these are getting reactions of kids, like, this is like watching 10-year-olds in karts, what's going on. And they worked out that when the race start button was pressed, there was a delay between the lights coming on and going out, but it was predictable based on when the lights were triggered. So they built radio receivers into the cars to detect when the guy in the box had pressed the button, and then just automatically launch the car when the right amount of time had passed.
Yeah. I could have really done with that at the February event with Straightliners, because I messed up every light start. First time I've ever done it, but I messed every one up.
What amazes me is all these races, all of them, they'll all spend, you'll spend thousands of pounds on trying to go knock a tenth of a second off your time. It'll cost you an absolute arm and a leg. But no one studies how the lights work. No one understands how the timing works. And I just watch them and I just think, come on.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, the secret to winning.
Yeah.
Study the lights.
in the Formula One thing, that you can go and watch this on YouTube, they figured out that these teams were all effectively cheating. And so they changed the light sequence without telling anybody. And you see all the cars that were cheating all went, all launched, and the lights are still red. And they nearly went into the back of the cars in front of them, and there was huge clouds of tire smoke as they all tried to stop it before they binned it into the cars in front of them. Absolutely hilarious. Well, find it on YouTube and watch it. It's funny. But yeah, it's that. Obviously, Formula One's, everything's optimized to the nth degrees, but yeah, they practice reactions.
Well, they
to the lights,
do delay boxes on the cars and bikes for the countdown trees, sportsman trees. So because it's a 0.4 tree, it's a known entity, and they never see the green. It just automatically goes. They've got the foot on, and off it goes.
Right.
They just never see it.
It's all done, optimized for them. Yeah.
So obviously, Straightliners runs drag racing and runway top speed events all around the country, but one venue that we've spoken about multiple times today and on the podcast over the air is Melbourne Raceway. One thing that we hope that, raising awareness of the venue via this podcast and other things does is help towards the funding of the venue and the funding of the further development of the tarmac there. But I know there's quite a nice backstory about, I guess, how you became involved in the venue and how the funding started. To just touch a little bit on that.
Yeah. I mean, I've raced at, as it was, York Raceway for many, many years. In fact, I went, before it even started, I went with Steve Murty and had a look at the venue to see if it was suitable for drag racing. He subsequently then opened it up as York Raceway and ran. for 43, 44 years. Unfortunately, it had sort of gone downhill to somewhat no investment, and it wasn't very good. It closed when the Mintex track went in, because Mintex had to move from here, from Sherburn in Helmet, their test track that they had. So they moved from here and went to Melbourne, and they put the new test track for Mintex straight down the middle, which took out the right-hand lane of the drag strip. So, all intents and purposes, it was over at Melbourne. The farmer, landowner, had said he wouldn't talk to the people who were running drag racing because it wasn't a viable thing. And they had to have, before he would start open negotiations with them, they had to have £100,000 on the table. So they set to it and they raised $100,000, and that was on the table. I was involved with the people who were trying to get drag racing back at Melbourne, and it just kept falling over and falling over. We had the money, but then we didn't get anywhere with it. And I then got Zeph Eisenberg involved, and I took him. We were racing at Elrington, and I took him down in the car, and we went and had a look at the site. And he said, "Yeah, I'll put some money in." And we spoke about laying tarmac the full length and doing some. It's a mile long. Is Melbourne, just over. We were going to do half-mile events and drag race events. So then introduced him to the landowner, and then things just sort of stalled, really, because the landowner wanted to give a 10-year lease, and the businessman that he was had said that wasn't long enough to recoup the investment that he was going to have to make, which is fair enough. So it sort of stalled. It sort of stalled and it didn't stall. So I'm like in the middle, and I'm poking each one with a stick, trying to get them to come together. And then it had been nearly knocking on for a year and a half. Nothing had run at Melbourne. And John, the landowner, said to me, if something doesn't happen on here this year, that's it. There'll be no drag racing here ever again. That's it. So we kicked it around, and I just said, right, look, I was in a meeting at the farm. So I left the meeting. I said, look, I'll come back. So I went down, and I had just had a look on my own to see what I could do. And really, with all the work that had gone on and laying the new track and for Mintex, things had got damaged, one thing and another. So I came up with a plan to run a single lane 8th mile sprint, basically. So I went back into the office and said, look, this is all I can do. Give me permission to do it, and I'll do it in the August when we've got a weekend with nothing on. So by that time, the $100,000 had been given back to the people who'd donated. So there's no money. We ran the event, and the big thing with it was, from their point of view, the landowner, was, can you guarantee that you will leave this site fit for Mintex to test on Monday morning.
Right.
So she said, yeah, no problem. And they didn't believe me. I knew they didn't believe me. But we work on MOD sites, and we were doing that all the time. We've been brought up doing that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a problem. We then ran that event to prove that it could be done, to prove that we could leave it clean and ready for the Monday, and to see if there was a will for drag racing to come back to York. It was an outstanding success, with wall-to-wall people, with people clamouring for entries. We ran it, and we packed up for an hour leaving site at 6 o'clock that night with everything. Grandstands gone, everything gone.
Mm.
And John were coming back in, and he said, where are you going? So I said, it's all done, John, all finished. And I knew he the way he looked at me is he didn't believe me. So I said, yeah, it's all done, it's all right. It's cleaner now than what it was when we took it off you. So he went down, and then on Monday morning I got a phone call, and he said, I didn't believe you when you said it was all ready to go. He said, but you were right, it was. Can you come and see me on Wednesday? So, and I just said, well, you don't want to be seeing me, you want to be seeing Steve Murty. He said, no, I want to see you. So I went on the Wednesday morning, and he offered me a 10-year lease. So there I am. I've got a 10-year lease, but with no money.
Right.
Because it had all been given back.
Mm.
So we then started again to get 100 grand for the second time. So we started getting money in. We got up to about 60,000, and it stalled, and we couldn't get it to move. It wouldn't. So I organised a meeting at Junction 25, Holiday Inn on the M62 on a Sunday. Anyone interested in drag racing at York Raceway, as it was known, come to this open meeting. So they'd said to me, how many do you think will come? So I thought, maybe 30, maybe 40. So they said, look, it'll take 80, so we'll set it up for 80. So we did it theatre style, top table, and everybody sat them. Every chair was taken. They were stood up all round the room. They were in the corridor. It's just unbelievable. Edward, the landowner's son, came, and he sat at the side of me, and we just said, look, we can do it. We just need to raise the rest of this money. Believe it or not, we came out of that meeting with £15,000. And that started from one guy who was sat at the front. He got up and he threw a £20 note on the table, and he said, there's my bit.
Yeah, it just started
It just started the whole thing. And we got the money. We got it in. So then the fun begins. So where do you put a drag race strip with a road down the middle where your dad won on the right-hand side, left-hand side? So the old spectator bank. So I got core enthusiasts who were going to be the main players, helpers. I got them together and we went. And I said, right, this is what we're going to do. And I stood on this banking and said, right, this is how we're going to do it. And they looked at me as if I'd fallen off a wagon, really. Banged my head, because they just didn't believe me. So I arranged then for contractors to start coming in and doing what needed to be done. And we cleared the bank first and made the viewing areas and that sort of thing on the right-hand side. And then got the contractors in to lay the strip. So we laid 500 metres of pristine tarmac which actually, when it all turned out, cost us about 135 grand, plus the VAT. So a colossal amount of money for us as Straightliners to, the shortfall in itself was tremendous. So after begging and borrowing and doing what we all need to do, we got there and we had it laid. So the quarter mile is laid in the pristine stuff, but you've only got 100 meters of that left. So then we got so that's why we ran the 8th.
Mm.
So 8th was all right, but some of the fast stuff was running onto the old stuff. So it cost us another 20 grand to have the next braking area done, which we did. And now we're on with all the paddock because it just needs to be uplifted. There's a big work program in place now for the winter of 2023, spring of 2024, with the tower revamped and made more presentable. We've got a new sponsor on board with X-Hype Oils, and Euro Dragster are still with us, and Kingston Shipping. We built a clubhouse that came on 2 pallets, donated to us, and they delivered this thing on 2 pallets and said, there you go, it's 50 foot by 40 foot. So I looked at these 2 pallets and thought, yeah.
Oh, modern construction's like that, isn't it? You can even get flat pack shipping containers. Shipping container. Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Anyway, we put that up ourselves. That's up. That's the clubhouse. We have a band on every Saturday night at Melbourne. Clive at UK Bars provides the bar facilities, and Sean provides the catering outside. Lovely area outside. People came out from all over, helping, donating. I can't tell you how much help we've had, both in physical help, in coming and working, financial help. The biggest donation we had was from someone I used to race against in the 70s, who rang me up and said, what's your bank details for this donation thing? So I told him, and he said, all right, leave it with me. So then he rang me up the day after, and he said, have you had a look at your bank account for Melbourne? I said, no, I haven't, no. He said, go have a look. So I went and had a look, and he put 20 grand in.
Wow. That's
and you just,
very generous.
You just can't, it's just so humbling that all these people have the faith in you to do.
Yeah. Well, obviously you've got a long track record of doing things the right way. But also, it's harder and harder at the moment for people to keep things that they love going, so people want to see, if people are into drag racing and that kind of thing, they want to see it keep going. And, there's very few people who have the experience left to do these things. People have moved on or whatever it might be. And, so who else, if you want to have a venue to do it, you've got to support, you've got to lean into these things as a community. So, I'm kind of surprised, but not surprised that you've had the level of support that you have in
it's not just me. Obviously, I've got a team. Helen and Martin have been in since day one, really. Martin does the timekeeping, Ellen does the admin and frightens people. That's just the way she is. The team are absolutely fantastic, really, really. And over the last few years at events now, I take more of a back seat. And we've now got people who have got the qualifications now to be clerk of the course and take the decisions and be up there. We've got plenty of those now coming along and going through. Tech inspection again. We've got lots of qualified tech inspectors, making sure that as far as they can, that you're safe to go.
On just thinking about keeping things going, and it's not necessarily a Straightliners thing, but maybe Straightliners would be where it comes from. That I saw an article in the news. They're looking for a driver for bloodhounds. Someone who can drive a car at not 200 miles an hour, but over 1,000 miles an hour, or whatever. I think 800 miles an hour is the minimum. I think it's gone 800, hasn't it?
It's gone. 800 is the next step.
Yeah. And obviously their existing drivers decided to retire. He's getting on a bit. So, maybe Straightliners could provide, be a launch pad for that sort of, someone who's got the experience doing top speed things. I mean, most of these people are fighter pilots, aren't they? Ultimately, that's where they pull this talent from. But why not someone who's able to drive a car at 300 miles an hour or whatever, taking that next step up.
I think, obviously, from our point of view, I've been involved with Guy Martin for a number of years, and he's a very clever lad, and he's got this thing, this sense, this component that a lot of people don't have, but he has that. I saw him with the 52 Express, which they're going to take to Bolivia eventually to do the motorcycle land speed record for over 400 miles an hour. And I organised the first powered test runs.
Right.
And he's a designated rider driver of it's a two-wheeler bit. And he got in that, and it's alien completely, and it's on little wheels, so it's tipped over. It's helicopter engineering, but it's wheel driven. And he set off, and honestly, within the length of this room, he had it on two wheels. And I've seen people come and never get off the skids, never get them off. They just can't do it. It comes off that one, but it goes on that one.
Right.
And he had that up and running, and he was running it, and then he came back and he said, "That's not right." So they plugged computers in and did what they did. I said, "Yeah, it's all right. It's all right." And he said, "No, it's not."
Yeah.
It's not. He did another run, stopped and said, "No, it's definitely not right." When they investigated it, it had thrown a belt, some teeth had come off a belt, and he were about to throw a drive belt. And he knew that. He felt that. He felt that through his eyes. He felt that.
Yeah. So some people have, through history, Jim Clark's the one that comes to my mind from cars. There's they have this innate thing that they can feel. The day he died, Jim Clark died, he said he had a puncture, and they checked it over and said, "No, you don't." And then on the very next lap, he crashed and died because no one knows for sure, but the theory is that he had a blowout and he hit a tree and died. But that the engineers could take him and whatever teammate, didn't matter who it was, they could take the cars down to constituent parts, and another engineer could go into the room and point out which car was Jim Clark's and which was and get it right 100% of the time because of the, he was so mechanically sympathetic, didn't use the brakes much, didn't wear components out, because they had such a feel for the car thing. Ayrton Senna was one of those people that allegedly, he'd come back in and he'd know to the nearest pound how much weight he'd put on a wheel in a given corner, because he could feel, that he knew the weight of the car obviously, but could feel the car to that extent. And that these people do exist, but they're in such rarefied air, aren't they? There's so few of them. But it will be someone like that takes that bloodhound car to 800 miles an hour.
He'd certainly be able to do it with Guy, I'm sure. Whether the TV companies will get behind it and push him forward, I have no idea.
Because it needs some significant investment, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's it's not cheap by any stretch. But the UK government's nominally behind it. The MOD have said, we'll maintain the jet engines. It's out of a fighter jet, isn't it? The engine, the moving part of the engine, because there's a rocket booster, a solid rocket booster like you use on a space launch in the thing as well, for the jet engine part of it that the UK government has sort of committed to help. So maybe someone listening to this podcast needs to get involved with Straightliners, get their 4-year-old involved with Straightliners now. and then go on to be to hold the absolute speed land speed record, because it's definitely it's a UK thing. As you say, there's a rich history of it. It's been held by UK people for a long time, going way back into the first when the sort of genesis of world land speed records. So why not have it as a come from Straightline?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Pendine, isn't it? You walk on Pendine Beach and it's these illustrious people. And Pendine's one of I think there's 7 venues throughout the world where the outright world record has been set.
Yeah.
And Pendine's one of them. And it's steeped in history. The new museum and things. It's fantastic, what's gone on. And long may it last.
Yeah. Every time I go to like Coniston, for example, I always think, the things that were done here,
Yeah, well, we tried to get the Blue Boat at our show last year. We're still trying. Watch this space.
That's proper speed history, isn't it? Those sorts of things. Yeah, absolutely.
So just to touch on a couple of bits before we wrap up. Firstly, on this podcast, you've heard now the story of Straightliners and Melbourne in particular. So anyone who's listening, please go to straightliners.events and make a donation. We've been kind of doing our bit wherever we can over the last year to raise awareness and put in, bits of fundraising wherever possible. But it's a site, Melbourne in particular, is a site with a fantastic potential, and it's constantly growing. And if anybody's listening, please do chip in if you can. Visit straightliners.events if you want to get involved. Run events all around the country, don't you? Like, say, 40.
Yeah, from Devon.
Over 40 last year.
Dragon Drift at Devon, right up to Campbelltown. So, and all points in between.
And whether you're a casual driver or serious, you can enter all kinds of different levels. But the main reason why I wanted to kind of interject is, so usually for podcast guests, we ask them to ask a question to our listeners to wrap up. But I realised that in the rush to get everything organised this month, I've actually forgotten to ask you to prepare that question. But rather than put you on the spot, I do have one of my own I wanted to ask all 3 of us, which is, if you've got one vehicle, bike or car, that's currently available on the market, and you've got one runway run that you can do, what car are you choosing? And so I'll start off by answering that and saying that I guess throughout my childhood, the poster car for top speed was the Bugatti Veyron. That's kind of the one that really came to prominence when I was in my teens. And I think that I would be hard pushed to choose anything other than that, purely from the experience of that's the car to go with. So that would be my choice.
So I know what came to mind initially was when one of the early days, I can't remember how old I was, but really young, Kellogg's ran a thing, you cut tokens out of the side of Kellogg's cornflakes boxes or whatever. And you'd send away and you got things back, you'd send these tokens back. And one of the things that you sent away for and got back were models of the world land speed record holding vehicles, right? And so if I had, probably a runway isn't long enough, but if I had a chance to drive a car, it would be Thrust 2 SSC. That would be it. Or Bluebird, but Thrust 2, because the look of it is so unbelievable. Like I remember I can holding the model as a I can't remember how old I was. It can't have been much older than 6 or 7. Holding this thing and being like what? This is unbelievable.
Is this real? Yeah.
And so it cannot happen for obvious reasons. But if I could, and I had an absolute carte blanche choice of any car, because it technically is, I suppose, a car, it would be Thrust 2. Yeah. Cool. I don't know where I'd be able to run that.
Trevor will sort you out.
Somewhere wherever Bloodhound's running in South Africa.
He'll sort your place, no problem.
I'm sure that if I said, Trevor, I've got to drive in Thrust 2, can I bring it? I'm sure you'd absolutely make it happen. Yeah.
Any thoughts on yours?
Yeah, really. I've driven and ridden all sorts of things. And if I was to sit on the end of Elvington Runway, the vehicle that I would be on would be, well, it's sat in my garage.
Fantastic.
And that's my 3-wheeler, the Time Bandit. Best speed I've done on that, and with a 350cc engine, 162 mile an hour. But I'd set it so that I run it safe nowadays. But I'd maybe not run it so safe.
Sure.
And, modern ignitions and carburation and fuels these days, I'm sure we could make it go quicker.
Fantastic.
Laid down head first, even 160 mile an hour feels like 360 miles an hour, believe.
Oh, so that's the one you're like forward facing on, is it? Yeah, I know which one you mean. Wow, yeah, got to be brave to drive that thing.
Yeah,
definitely brave.
It's fantastic. And in actual fact, that was the last vehicle I crashed.
It's maybe
and that
good end to the podcast.
That was in May this year.
Yeah,
when Phil Woody, he's towing me down to the start line at Elvington from the paddock. And because it's laid down head first, I normally, when I'm being towed, I sit on it with my feet on the handlebars, being towed, holding the tow rope. So I'm sat there being towed down the Perry track, not going quick, because, 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour. The right-hand wheel goes down a pothole. The 3-wheeler just shoots off to the right, and Woody carries on towing me down the runway, still hold of the rope. It wasn't a good experience.
I bet it wasn't. It's a scene straight out of a cartoon, I think.
Yeah, literally. So I hit the deck. Woody stopped. He came back. I couldn't get up. One of the joys of being old. I couldn't get up. So he lifted me up, stood me on my feet to see if I were all right. We then went and looked for the bike, which had gone into the long grass at the side of the runway. Perfectly all right. So I thought, I best ride this down that runway. Because when I go back, I'm going to stiffen up, and that's going to be me over. So that's what I did. Went to the start line, got on the bike, rode it back. And I don't think I've been right since. But I'll be there again.
Excellent.
I'm sure you will.
Excellent.
But thanks very much for coming on and
thank you for inviting me.
About it's been fascinating. We could talk for ages. I'm sure. But as Mark said, the best way, if you want to get to learn more about Straightliners, is get on the website. We'll put the description down in the
from
the link
your
down in the
daily to anything. If you just want to see how quick your daily car, your daily ride will go, just bring it along and enter. It's that easy. Just bring your driving license. It is that easy.
Yeah.
And you'll see how quick it will go. Time to 10,000th of a second, and away you go.
I can
have a lot of fun
attest
doing it.
Yeah, it's great fun. Absolutely. We've all done it. So get involved. So we'll call it a day there. Thanks again. Please, as usual, check out the links in the description. Give us a like. Share with your car loving friends. Anyone you think would enjoy listening to us. And check out straightliners.events for everything going fast in a straight line. Thank you very much.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius. Favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.